City of Rollingwood, the City Council for the City of Rollingwood will come to order Wednesday, April 16th, 2025 at 7 o'clock p.m. and we will begin with roll call.
Brooke Brown.
Phil McDuffie.
Sarah Hudson.
Gavin Massengill, and we don't have Kevin on yet? Okay, that's fine. Being a quorum present, we will come to order and move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to make public comments on items not on the agenda? What's that? Okay. Who would that be? Oh, is it Shanti? Yes, come on up.
Give me just a minute, please. Okay. Mayor, council members, even those who are not here, I hope they're listening. I come before you after a long absence. In fact, last time I was here was before the November election, when Mayor Massengill and council members Kevin Glasheen and Sarah Hudson were re-elected to serve Rollingwood for another term. Congratulations and thank you for serving. I come to share the sad news of my husband J. Kumar's passing on January 10, 2025, after a short 8 months battle with cancer. His passing at MD Anderson in Houston was peaceful, but his absence has created a void in my life and that of our family. We are deeply grateful to our community for the innumerable messages of support and offers of assistance to our family during this difficult time. The offers of help came from city staff, our police department, our public works, and everybody that we have known and cherished here in the city. Thank you all very much. To those who did not know Jay, he was a member of the city council for a very brief 6 months. I served 4 years, but anyway, he served for 6 months from 2013 to 2014, having been elected in November 2013. Jay was an electrical engineer by profession and always insisted on precision and perfection in everything he did. He believed in fairness and equal protection under the law for every citizen of Rollingwood. I just want to give you all a little history background so those who didn't know Jay will understand why I'm here to say this. He resigned from the council to protest the decision to relocate some backyard water meters at city expense, while 55 others would be charged to homeowners as their meters were not located within the city's easements. So until a few short days before the bond election in November 2013, the same election in which he was elected, citizens were informed that all meters, including those 55, were to be covered by bond funding. Until they were not. City attorneys advised the council at that time, that Texas law does not permit using public funds to develop private property. This meant that city funds could not be used to trench new lines on those 55 properties. Too little, too late to inform citizens about this change in funding. Jay's letter of protest was published in the Austin American-Statesman on 2/18/14. He resigned in May of 2014. Well, now in 2025, I'm glad that the city is finally getting our water infrastructure up to par. Jay continued to serve the Rollingwood community through his photography, and his photos were published, I'm showing you in a little bit, were published on the front page of the Westlake Picayune after major events such as the Extravaganza in April, then the Rollingwood Women's Club Fund Run, 5K Fund Run, and of course the 4th of July celebrations. And almost every year, he would take photos of the National Night Out and take group shots of our Rollingwood Police Department. Thank you for allowing me to share this, but before I leave, I want to also say, to share this history and to recall Jay's short but intensely dedicated service on the City Council. And here are some pictures from the front page of the Picayune. This was a picture from the Extravaganza when all the kids run out to get the best shot at getting those eggs. And then this is another front page of the Westlake Picayune with the 5K race. All the people running. Okay. One of these days I'll make a memory book. And then this is from the 4th of July with parade and other things. And one more from the 5K from another year. So all these were on the front page of the Westlake Picayune. And so he continued to serve in a capacity that he knew how to, and he did a good job of it. So thank you for listening, and thank you all for all your support over the last 3 months since he passed away. It's going to take a long time to get back, but I don't intend to be absent from these meetings. So thank you.
Any other comments from anyone on items not on the agenda? Okay, thank you. With that, we'll move on to the swearing in of the city secretary, and I'll call up agenda item number 2, discussion and possible action to appoint Michaela Rodriguez as the city secretary. Council, I'm very pleased to bring this agenda item to you tonight. As you recall, many months ago, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was 7 or 8 months ago now, we were pleased to have Michaela move into this role and on an interim basis and see how that worked out. Wanted to get our new city administrator on board, make sure that the team was in a good spot before we made this official. But I will say on a personal note, Michaela has really stepped up. She stepped up through the transition in a big way to make sure that things were smooth and taken care of, and I think has done a great job in helping Alan kind of get his feet under him and vice versa. So I'm very pleased to bring this to you this evening, and open it to any discussion, and happy to take an action, a motion for action. Yes, ma'am.
I move that we appoint Michaela Rodriguez as city secretary for the city of Rollingwood, Texas.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Ms. Hudson. Any?
Before we
Yes.
vote,
Oh, I see.
should we?
I'm
Oh,
happy that you did that. Please let the record reflect and the minutes reflect that Mr. Glasheen is now on the dais virtually. Welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
All those opposed say no. There being 4 ayes and no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. And with that, we will move on to agenda item number 3, the official swearing in of City Secretary Michaela Rodriguez. Michaela, will you come on up? Judge, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
If you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Michaela Rodriguez. Do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully execute. The duties of city secretary. For the city of Rollingwood. Of the state of Texas. And will, to the best of my ability. Preserve, protect, and defend. The Constitution. And laws of the United States. And
Luca, get ready.
And of this state. So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you so much. You should sign this. No.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to presentations and move to agenda item number 4, presentation and discussion on the quarterly investment report for the second quarter. I think, Al, is it going to be you tonight?
It's gonna be me.
Okay, great. Tell us how we're doing, Alan.
So unfortunately, Abel's not able to be here this evening, but I have in front of you the quarterly investment report. Everything is still looking good. If you look at the second page, or the first page after my letter, the ending balance for the second quarter, ending in March of 2025, is at $775,649, which is up approximately $8,300 over the course of the second quarter. And you see the interest received year to date is $17,366. You notice the interest is going down a little bit as the rates are coming down a bit, but it's still a solid position. And it is increasing through there. So we're still in a good position with the quarterly investment report.
Thank
Any
you.
questions, council?
Thank you.
All right, with that, we will move off agenda item number 4 onto agenda item number 5, presentation and discussion on the budget review for the second quarter. Alan?
Mayor and Council, so in front of you again, we have the, you see the financial analysis there. The current property taxes, of course, this is the time of year where you'd expect to receive by far the majority of taxes we have. So we're at about 98% collection on property taxes, currently up about 14% from this time last year. For the sales tax, which of course is comprised of the 4B sales tax, the city sales tax, and the street sales tax, up approximately 4% from this time last year. The general fund revenue is up about 5%. Expenditures are down approximately 1%. On the water fund, revenue is down 18% and expenditures are up by 17%. And then on the wastewater fund, the revenue is right on track, 49% of the budget at approximately halfway through the year. And we only spent about 37% of that budget or the allocated expenditures so far this year.
Thank you, Alan. Any questions, council? All right, with that, we'll move off of agenda item number 5 and move on to this consent agenda. Happy to take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to pull the meeting minutes for the March meeting for just a very quick edit.
Agenda item number 6 has been pulled from the consent agenda. Do I have a motion on agenda item number 7?
Move to approve agenda item number 7 to approve the Rollingwood Women's Club 4th of July event.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Ms. Duffy. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Waiting for Kevin. Kevin?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Aye. Thank you.
Being 4 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. Back to agenda item number 6. Ms. Brown's recognized on 6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have an edit to, in paragraph 13, page 6 of the minutes. There in the 5th paragraph under that number 13, I would amend it to read, Councilmember Brooke Brown moved to amend Councilmember Kevin Glasheen's motion to adopt ordinance number 2025-03-19-13 as drafted with the changes, strike mentioned and insert recommended by Councilmember Glasheen, period. And then the last sentence, the motion carried with 4 in favor and 1 against.
Is there objection to the amendment of the minutes?
No.
Hearing none, the minutes have been amended, and they will be reflected. You have that? Okay, we'll go back and make that. And with that, I will take a motion on number 6.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the March minutes with those changes.
You have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Ms. Hudson. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Gotcha. Being 4 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. With that, we'll move on to the regular agenda. Pull up agenda number 8. Discussion. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mayor, we have a member of our community who is been interested in agenda item number 15. I don't think it will take long to address that matter, and while she's here, I wonder if we might move that matter forward and take it up.
Happy to do that
Out of
because
order.
it will be extremely quick. I will move off of agenda number 8 and pull up agenda item number 15, update on the status of the Rollingwood trademark applications, and recognize Alan.
So good evening again, Mayor and Council. As you know, my predecessor and I think everybody was involved in trying to trademark certain Rollingwood logos that we have. So I'm pleased to announce that last week, I think, we received notification that the long logo, the rectangular one, and the R-leaf logo have been approved by the Texas Secretary of State. So they've been approved and registered. as trademarks of the city of Rollingwood. So the trademarks are in effect for a period of 5 years, way back to October. I think things take a while at the state level, so we have in place mechanisms to make sure that we renew those, and those are both in place, and those are trademarks of the city now.
Thank you for the update, Alan. You know, he told me, he said, I don't know why this is so hard for you guys. I came on, he said,
And with very little effort
and
on my
it
part.
just came.
Very little
We're
effort.
very
Yes,
impressed with
very
your
impressed.
speediness
Thank you,
in
ma'am.
getting that approval.
Yeah. We won't tell Ashley he said that.
No,
Did you have a question, Sarah?
I think we have someone who'd like to be recognized.
Okay.
I'm thankful to having moved this up. This was an agenda item that I had been pursuing for a long time. So I want to, since you're new here, and you might understand the dynamics of why this is up here a little better maybe. So let me give you my little spiel.
But I would ask you not.
No, not
to-
long, not long,
okay.
okay. But it has to be said. Mayor, council members, thank you for finally bringing this issue to a happy ending. As some of you know, this controversy started soon after the city had spent $30,000 to create a Rollingwood branding initiative that resulted in 2 distinctive designs that are part of the city's logo. And unbeknownst to the community, the logo was not trademarked at the time. It was probably assumed that it was. Between July 2022 and December of that year, the logo was used to circulate a newsletter that did not originate from City Hall. Many in the community wrongly assumed it was from the city. In December 2022, thanks to newly elected member at the time, Kevin Glasheen, he presented an agenda item to request the citizen to stop using this logo for private communication. Councilmember Hudson proposed the use of $1,000 to get the trademark done. It was unanimously approved by the council. I have come several times to request a follow-up on this project, and today I'm extremely gratified that Ashley's efforts and that of the rest of the staff has finally achieved fruition. I hope that this will make the use of the logo strictly for city use. And I'm asking one technical question. Would there be a TM written somewhere on the logo at some point so that it is recognized internationally as a, we are city of the future. So I'm just saying, I don't know how it goes with TM denotes trademark. It's not there now so that we don't have any more ever misuse of our logo. We are proud of it. Let's keep it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll move on back to agenda item number 8, discussion and update regarding the water CIP bond program packages 1 through 4. I think we have Greg here from K-Freeze. I see Greg. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll give a brief update on the 3 construction projects that we currently have going on with AO Services, and then open up for any questions. Starting with the water CIP project, AO has completed 14 of the streets in their scope. They're currently working on Laura Lane and Michelle Circle and expect to be completed those 2 streets and have the services tied in early June. They are starting Vance and Vale. If they didn't start today, they should be starting that this week, and they expect that one to be completed in mid-July. And then the last area that they have is along Bee Cave near the Chevron station. They're starting that after the Hubbard-Hatley drainage project, and they expect that to be completed in July as well. And then for all the projects, for all the water CIP and the 2 drainage projects, any of the streets that have not been fully paved, they're going to do that all at the very end of the project. They're just going to have their crew come in and pave everything all at once at the very end. For Nixon Pleasant, all of the storm work is completed in the streets, and they're just working in the channel. They're currently working on the riprap or the boulders on the side of the channel, and also working on the connection to the existing wall with the proposed head wall that was installed. And they expect the rest of that project to be completed in mid-June, except for the final paving. And then for Hubbard-Hatley, they have started some investigation of existing utilities. They found a couple conflicts that we were working with them right now to resolve. I'm hoping to have something finalized next week with them. And they expect Hubbard-Hatley to be completed mid-June as well. And so, as I mentioned, that crew, once they finish that, they're going to move over to the Bee Cave pressure-reducing valve site. So that's where we stand, and if anyone has any questions, happy to answer anything.
On the Pleasant Nixon, that intersection there, is there going to be some kind of a screen or bars or something on the end of the culvert?
I need to look into. I know we talked about it.
We did talk about it one
Yeah.
point. We'll look at that. I
Yeah.
can't remember where we sort of deferred to the neighbors on some of that, so we'll go back and look and
Mhm.
see.
Because that's big enough for a kid to get washed into, and there's no exit.
Yeah.
That's.
Oh, are you talking about the one in?
In Kevin's front yard?
Yes, actually, we did talk. I don't know the answer to that question. I had the same thought and comment. Kevin and I even talked about it one day, so it's on my radar to check that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll
I mean,
look into it
and
as well.
that's one of those sooner than later,
Yeah.
because the
When it
stuff
rained,
is all
right.
installed,
Yeah.
and so it's a hazard right now, so.
And we don't want it to slow down the flow, but it does need to have a safety.
Mhm.
Well, it just needs to keep things
Ki-
from
yeah,
going
kids,
in there
yes.
that are not supposed to go in there, like trash cans and children and other things.
Mainly
Small
children.
dogs.
Mainly children.
Yes.
And Alan and I talked about it too, and he had
Yes.
an unfortunate incident in his last town, so it's on our.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we will move on to agenda item number 9, discussion and possible action on a site plan for Western Hills Athletic Club located at 4801 Rollingwood Drive. Nikki, you want to step up and just open this up for us?
So this is coming before y'all because site plans per our code. I have the code written out on the one sheet of the exact processes for it. This is for the Western Hills Athletic Club at 4801 Rollingwood Drive. They are proposing the expansion of 2 tennis courts with modifications of landscaping. And this is coming before you for their approval. It has gone through all of the approval processes of drainage, zoning, and building code for the retaining walls. It has also been approved through TCEQ for their drainage. It does have one special exception, which was granted to them, which does allow the expansion of the courts with the California corners, as well as a reduction of the drainage by 5%, I believe. So we do have the engineer here and a representative for Western Hills, if y'all have any questions regarding that.
Thank you, Nikki. Any questions for Nikki? Okay, great.
I have questions for somebody.
Okay. Doesn't sound like Nikki. I will recognize whoever is here to represent. Yeah.
Right.
Hi, Zach Elkins, currently the president of Western Hills Athletic Club.
Welcome, Zach.
Thank you.
So all of the documents that have been submitted to the city, all of the discussion at the Board of Adjustment, all talks about redoing the existing tennis courts, slightly relocated, and adding 2 additional tennis courts.
Correct.
The little diorama that you have up at the pool and the information that was sent to the members back in December is not consistent with that, because it shows 1 additional tennis court and then pickleball courts. And the diorama has 2 pickleball courts in the space where 1 tennis court would be, and the discussion in the email that was sent out to members said that, you know, in attempt to preserve basketball on the basketball court and then tennis on the tennis courts, that there was going to be some dedicated pickleball courts put in. That is not what was presented when it went to the Board of Adjustment. And we, you know, so there's been no discussion on pickleball courts being put in up there. We've had lots of issues with existing pickleball courts in the city, and so I'm just trying to understand the discrepancy between
Yeah.
what's been presented.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sarah. And I just want to thank city council members and the mayor for all the work on this. I know it's been a long time, and a lot of people's time and effort and willingness to express skepticism, which I think is really valuable here. I think it's easy to just rubber stamp and approve some of these processes, and I think the skepticism has actually led to a great improvement in the courts. And it has evolved a little bit over the 6 years, which I think is natural for a project like this. So the scale model, it was built by my 15-year-old in an architecture project. I think he prefers scale model to diorama, and he was going under my supervision, and it's pretty accurate in terms of the layout of the courts, which I can go into. I know a lot of people are probably not familiar with the project as it sits, and it might be worthwhile for me to walk through some of the major elements of it. I don't know. But he did, as you say, line on one of the courts, one of the tennis courts, some pickleball courts, which is consistent with what we had imagined, I think, going back to 2018. So if you recall, I mean, this project came about in the club in 2014. They put in a bathhouse. 2018, a new pool deck, and the next project was to be an upgrading of the tennis courts. And they started it back then, and pickleball was a thing back then, and members had expressed interest in playing. And I wasn't on the board back then, but the thought was to try to accommodate that somehow. And the thought was, well, we don't know where pickleball is going. It wasn't quite as controversial back then as it is now, but they didn't know where it was going, whether it would last, whether we wanted dedicated pickleball courts. But the design, from the beginning when I was involved with this, was always to stripe the courts for both pickleball and tennis. Just because we have such a small club, small area to play either of those, and we wanted to maximize tennis and maximize pickleball at different times, sometimes at the same time, and we thought that was the most flexible strategy to do it. We hadn't made a determination on how many courts to stripe with pickleball. The thought was to start with one, and we are quite aware of the potential nuisance of pickleball, and I'm sure board members are very much aware of that here and probably don't want to discuss pickleball at all, but we're not dogmatic about pickleball. We'd like to accommodate for our members if we can, and we have for the last 3 or 4 years, both on the basketball court, which we've restriped for pickleball, and on one of the tennis courts where we've put 2 pickleball courts. And thus far, I think it's been pretty successful. People enjoy playing there. We haven't heard, at least to my knowledge, any complaints from neighbors. And maybe there are some, but I haven't heard them. And we certainly are willing to clamp down on or at least restrict our playing in any way that makes sense in order not to be a nuisance. So we have rules in place right now for the tennis backboard, which is also loud, so that you can't use it before 9 a.m. And of course, we don't have lights, so you can't use it much after dinner time. And so it's highly restricted in terms of time. We've also, at the various meetings that I've been a part of, talked about pickleball quite a bit with the Board of Adjustments, and we made
I don't recall that.
at the third Board of Adjustment meeting, there was quite a lot of conversation about pickleball. In fact, I had a slide on pickleball, as I recall. And I mean, I don't know if any of the other members who were there for that can verify that. How would you, and why would you remember that? I don't know, but I remember because I was here presenting for that. And we talked quite a bit about it because it was right on the heels of the Hatley property, which had already become very controversial. And since we had expressed the intention to accommodate pickleball on one of the tennis courts in a hybrid strategy, that came up quite a bit. And so what we said at the time was that we're aware of the problem and we're more than willing to adjust our rules to have softer paddles, softer balls, or just to eliminate pickleball entirely. And so this is not we're not dogmatic about pickleball. If it can work and we can have our members play, which I think is a great thing. I mean, there are a lot of other nuisances, noise nuisances in our city. Most obvious of them being two-stroke engines and leaf blowers, which drive me crazy. And I realize that pickleball is adding to the noise, but we're more than willing to abide by whatever the noise ordinances are in the city code as far as pickleball goes. And it's not thus far been a very frequent activity. Things are pretty relaxed at the club more generally, just given its size, and pickleball's not been. I don't know if that answers, Sarah.
Well, I guess my issue was that I don't recall pickleball being discussed at a great length at the Board of Adjustment meeting. And so Kevin Shell he's on the Board of Adjustment. I think Brooke was probably at the meeting. I don't remember if Phil was at the meeting either, but it's just all of the documentation refers to tennis courts. And then, so pickleball was not really assessed as a concern.
And Councilwoman, I don't know all the details. I haven't read the minute. We did look at the minutes, and apparently it was at least mentioned at some level of discussion in 2022.
Not extensively.
Well, I don't know how extensively. I do recall it being mentioned, and the neighbor who was closest to it saying that he didn't have a problem with it.
One person.
Right. Now I understand.
One person. Yeah.
That's my recollection.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not opining one way or the other. We were able to look at the minutes, and it was noted several times in the minutes. So.
Okay.
But Sarah, we also have documentation in all of our work about the intention to do pickleball, and I don't know why we wouldn't have been upfront about it. It is controversial, that's true, but it's not our primary objective.
Yeah, but all the plans and all the documents, it just says tennis courts on there, so.
If you look at the handout that we prepared for members at the member meeting in January, at that point, we realized it was confusing to continue to talk about the tennis project, even though that's how it become known, and we started calling it the court project, just to be more general in that sense. Yeah.
Right, with the members, but not with the city or with the Board of Adjustment that gave approval for the variances.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to belabor this, but if we go back to the tape of the third Board of Adjustments, I do recall talking a lot about pickleball, but I'm not sure it matters either way. But.
Well, if it was not considered as part of the approval process, that is my concern, is that some of this has not been, it does not seem to have been accurately presented for the decisions that were made. So that's my concern. Also have a question, I think, for the engineer. The impervious cover calculations.
If you would, just identify yourself
Sure.
for the record.
My name is David Cazares. I'm with MWM Design Group. I am not a civil engineer. I'm the project manager and the managing director of facilities design for our company.
Okay. The area of the pool
Yes.
is included as pervious cover
Yes.
in the calculations, which is kind of totally adverse to the purpose of a swimming pool. The whole point of the swimming pool is to hold the water, not to allow it to infiltrate into the ground. And so that is counted in the calculations as pervious cover. I'm curious how that was approved by the
I'm not sure
engineers, the city engineers.
The code allows the pool to be counted as pervious cover.
No,
That is the reason why. It was when we made the submittal.
it It is in the section of the rules that address the TCEQ requirements for having a water pollution abatement plan, but it's not in the code that covers the park impervious cover.
When we had this discussion last time, it was included in the city code as pervious cover. We submitted it that way. It was reviewed by the engineer and staff that way. I don't have any reason to believe that that is incorrect at the moment.
Pretty sure it is incorrect, but, that swings the total impervious cover over the limit if that is treated as impervious cover. And the way the drainage from that pool is, there are drains in there. And so if it rains, and when you're calculating the runoff for a 100-year storm, which is 6 or 7 inches in 24 hours, that water is going to go through the drains and go out. It's not being held. So it's absolutely part of the runoff. So I have concerns with whether or not that complies with the requirements.
We'd have to look into it, but most pools don't drain into the storm drain system because they're chlorinated. Most of them drain into the wastewater system. So we'd have to look into that to find out where that water is actually going.
Pretty sure it goes through a pipe that goes out the north end of the pool and down the ditch. Because
I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
yeah. Because when people are swimming, there's water coming out that drain. So that needs to be addressed because that increases the runoff that I don't think has been accounted for in the calculations. So.
Okay. Any other questions for
David.
David? Sorry, thanks,
No
David.
problem.
I don't have questions for David, but I have a question about where's the changes in the landscaping plan from when it was previously approved by the prior council to what's being proposed today. I thought we were going to get some explanation of that tonight.
For the changes in the landscape plan?
Yes, The landscape, the cover letter that came with this agenda item says that the landscape plan has not materially changed from when it was approved by the prior council in 2021. We have not altered materially the elements of the plan, but I don't see, you need to identify for me, if you can, what the changes are from that plan.
Sure. So the changes are limited to the additional trees that we had to propose for tree mitigation. And so there are more trees there on the project, and I believe all of the trees that we had proposed have all increased in size. So we went, I think, from 3 and 4 inch trees to 4 and 6 inch trees.
Okay. And the screening as I recall, there was screening landscape between the back of the courts and the adjacent residential property.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that still as it was proposed at the prior time, except for the size of the trees?
There are more trees there now. I believe we added 3 more trees along that edge.
Okay. Well, it'd be nice to have something that shows what it is that's changed so that we know what we're approving tonight.
Okay.
Where would I find that?
I don't have a document that highlights the differences between the two with me today, but there are, I believe, 3 live oaks that are added to that edge of the property that are different than what was there before.
Okay. Is that in the site plan?
That is on the landscape plan
Okay.
in the drawings.
So it's what pages, so we can make a record of what's gonna change. Is it in this, it's in this? If you can identify just the pages of that we need to be sure that we approve.
Landscape plans begin on page 20, I believe.
I'm sorry?
20 of that site plan packet, the approval,
Can you
that one
use
that you
the-
have. It is sheet 700. Sheet number, down at the bottom, it'll have like 100, 200, it's 700, 701, and 791.
700, 701, and 791?
Yes, ma'am. And it is like page of this packet, it is page 20, 21, and 22.
Thank you. And so this incorporates the landscape plan approved in 2021.
I am not sure on that question. I know it does include the additional trees and the ones that are approved now, but I don't know the changes of
we
what
need
it
to get
was
an-
and what it is.
Is there an-
David, do you?
Are you able to answer that?
Yeah, so the trees that were approved previously, there were 7 trees along that edge. We now have 10 trees along that edge, and all of the 7 trees are very, very close to where they were in the previous iteration.
And there was no other kind of shrubbery or other landscaping?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
There's a fence that runs along there, a new fence that's gonna run along there, that was required.
Yes. And otherwise, so what I'm asking is, those 3 sheets include everything that was in the prior approved landscape plan plus the changes that you're proposing?
Yes.
Okay, all right. That's what I need to know. Thank you.
Sure.
And I have one other question, and that is there a lighting plan also in these?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so that remains.
There's no court lighting proposed, if that's what you're asking.
No, that is not what I'm asking.
Okay.
Is your lighting proposal for the that are associated with this project, is that in these set plans?
There's no lighting proposed with this project at the moment. I don't know. Is there lighting?
We don't have plans for lighting.
There's no plans for lighting.
Okay, so no lighting is being approved tonight. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then one more question, and that is, if the council approves all of these, it approves the site plan and the landscaping plan, what is your intention with respect to the lawsuit that's been filed against the city? And that's probably for Zach.
Yeah.
Okay, so, well, the lawsuit came before my time, but I am aware of it. The current board has absolutely no plans to pursue a lawsuit of any kind.
Is there an intention to dismiss it?
We haven't talked about it, but I don't see why not.
Is there anyone that can speak to that?
I do have some other board members here. We haven't talked about
Okay.
any intentions with a lawsuit. Although, no, that's not true. At the last board meeting, I think there was consensus all around that that we have no intention to do a lawsuit. So, and we haven't talked about withdrawing it, but we'd be happy to do so.
All right. And I speak to that because I think it would show good faith that if you do, and if the city does, if the council does approve the plans tonight, I would expect to see that happen, and I would expect that to happen quickly.
Yeah.
As I recall, that lawsuit, members of the Board of Adjustment were sued personally, and it's a suit against both the Board of Adjustment and the city, so I think if we're going to resolve the approval of the plans, we need to resolve that as well.
I think I agree with you, Brooke.
Thanks.
I would say that it's been very collaborative over this period of time with the Board of Adjustment, and I'm actually glad we went through 3 iterations of the Board of Adjustment because it resulted in a much better plan. Much better in many respects. So.
Well, and I would say when I saw this plan, it took me a couple of days to figure out that now the courts are moving down the hill
Yeah.
and not at the previous height that would have been both make the pickleball noise more problematic and also visually more problematic. So I'm glad to see that, and I appreciate that you've contacted me and we've talked about
Yeah.
what these.
I think it's a
last
really nice
issues are.
aspect of the plan,
I think
and that
it's a
may
nice
not be
aspect.
obvious only because in the plan set you don't see the elevation very clearly, but it does hug the landscape in a really nice way now with the 3
Yes.
tiers, and allows us to put a more vegetation and more architecture into the plan. I think when we asked David to continue working on this, he's been working on it for 7 years now. But we told him this last iteration after the 3rd Board of Adjustment meeting that we wanted the most beautiful courts in Texas. Maybe we said the United States, I don't know. But he's been trying to live up to that, and that was one of the
Very good.
elements that he included in it. And it's, in addition to the California corners and removing the berm and offsetting the courts a little bit, they're going to be beautiful.
Good. We look forward to it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, council, any other questions?
Okay. Question for Nikki.
Yes, ma'am.
So in the letter that came from, I guess it was a letter from MWM Design Group that's in the packet here, where they were responding to the questions from, I think, from the city engineer. There was one requirement referenced for an O&M plan for the drainage facilities that's required by ordinance, and also a sequence of construction. Have we gotten those?
I do believe the sequence of construction is a portion on plans. It's just a standard sequence of construction. It's kind of just construction notes.
Okay.
As far as the O&M, I'm not sure. If you could direct me to kind of where you're looking, I could.
It's the letter, it's the second attachment on the packet.
Okay.
So it's the letter dated December 8th
Yes,
of
ma'am.
2023.
Yes, ma'am.
It's item 13.
Okay. In which item?
13.
13? Yes, ma'am. Prior owners. Yes, I believe that is a standard in the site plan as well. The construction note.
Okay, so that's somewhere in
Yes, ma'am.
the packet. Okay.
I can look.
It's microscopic. It's kind of hard to read all that.
Yes.
Okay.
I do believe it's probably going to fall, typically it would fall under all the contractor notes, which would be page 3 of that document. So just past the cover page,
Okay.
the next page with
general
all
notes.
those construction notes.
Totally unreadable.
Yes, but I do see the sequence of
This way.
construction and construction notes, traffic controls, general construction notes, fire compatibility, drainage ordinance requirements,
Okay,
and the TCQ.
okay.
Yes,
All right,
ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any other questions, council, to complete your deliberation? All right, hearing none, I'm happy to take a motion if you're so inclined.
Do we have any public comments?
Fine question, Councilwoman. Are there anyone wishing to make public comments on agenda item number number 9, I'm sorry. All right. No, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Mayor, I would move that we approve the Western Hills Athletic Club site plan, dated October 4, 2024, as presented in the agenda packet, item number 9, and including the landscape plan as presented in that packet on pages 700, 701, and 791.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Brown, second by Mr. Robinson. Is there further discussion?
A question for Charlie. So right now, we don't have anything in our code that addresses all of the pickleball, or we have some, but we talked a little bit when we were coming up with the pickleball restrictions about the fact that there may be courts at the pool, but there was not anything put in to specifically address the pool. If we were to add requirements at a later date, would they somehow be grandfathered into not having to comply with those requirements?
The general answer to that question is yes. But they could potentially be grandfathered now, I don't know. The grandfathering begins when you file a permit.
Yeah, but their permit doesn't say anything about pickleball.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I can answer that question until without more specific, factual understanding of what this is this not include pickle? I heard they already have pickleball, so that.
But they're adding more courts, and they're specifically, they
wouldn't be grandfathered
they did not permit the pickleball stuff that's there now. And that it's not represented in the documents that were submitted. And I'm just thinking that if we have multiple pickleball courts in there and then it becomes a problem, there's no way to regulate it.
Well, we can regulate nuisances, so they wouldn't be grandfathered from nuisance regulations. If we tried to adopt regulations that prohibited pickleball courts, yes, they'd be grandfathered. They would be able to continue their pickleball courts, but they're not vested under all regulations. So that's why I say it's difficult to answer, because it depends on what the regulation is going to be. If we pass a zoning ordinance that says all pickleball courts are banned in that zoned area, they will be able to continue their pickleball court use as an existing non-conforming use. But as far as other regulations, I would have to wait and see what those regulations are, analyze it under the vesting statute, the exemptions, and go from there.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Hudson, I think if you remember, we redefined sport court. And as redefined, that sport court includes both any flat game court structure for play, including basketball courts, tennis courts, hockey rinks, racquetball courts, and other game courts. So I think by approving tennis courts, we necessarily authorize the use of those courts for pickleball, because they're zoned as a sport court, not as a tennis court. And on the other hand, the regulations we've adopted for control of pickleball noise and play will apply, because they're not a zoning matter. So I think the situation, if this is approved, is that pickleball can be played, but it has to be played in compliance with the pickleball regulations. So I think we crossed that bridge already when we redefined sport court to include pickleball courts.
Okay, so even if we tweak those rules later, they would still have to comply.
The for
nuisance
pickleball regulation, yes, those will apply, because they're not zoning. They're like, you've got to,
Okay.
they're like other rules within the city that it's only the zoning rules that get grandfathered.
Well, there's some others, but I agree, otherwise in general with what Councilmember Brown is saying.
Okay. I just don't want to approve something that then has no restrictions and then causes problems for the neighbors, and we have no way to address it.
Vesting typically is applicable only when you're going through a development process. So, because what the statute says is it says that once you file a permit, you're entitled to operate under the rules in existence for that permit process. And then once it's completed, the vesting isn't really applicable anymore. Then you can adopt regulations and that regulate activity like you normally would, but it wouldn't be subject to Chapter 245. The example I gave with the zoning, and I think that what Councilmember Brown was thinking about is we people have grandfather rights, I suppose maybe is a better statement, under zoning, because you can't just, they have financial consideration associated with putting those uses into place, and so the courts have held that they have a right to continue those uses subject to our reasonable non-conforming use provisions.
Thank you, Counselor. Good explanation. Okay, any other questions? You do have a motion before you.
I have one
Yes, sir.
comment. So certainly don't want to slow down this process, but I do think the point that Councilmember Hudson brought up about the offlow potentially from the pool, and there seems to be a lack of clarity as to whether or not it is coming out of the pipe out of the back and isn't treated, or could be going into a sewer or stuff like that. Is there any way to either pass this with the understanding that that gets addressed if it is in fact just flowing out the back and adding to the runoff, and therefore putting the amount over the limit? And seeing if there's any way to mitigate that after the fact, if that is the case.
Oh, well,
No, that's fine.
I'll take a stab at it. I think.
Yeah,
I mean, if there is if they're found to be in non-compliance with a code or an ordinance or some rule or regulation, then I think that yes, we could bring them into compliance.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's an accuracy. I mean, if any, so taking it away from them, if anybody is in non-compliance with an existing code, we can require them to come into compliance. Even if we've adopted new code provisions which are newly applicable.
I don't know that it's a code requirement. I think it's just a representation on the runoff calculations and the.
Yeah, they'll have, I mean, they do have to comply with all of, so the approval of the site plan is one aspect of it. I don't know, is the site plan engineered, is that accurate? And does it meet, has our city engineer stated
Do we have a rule that addresses the disposal of chlorinated water from swimming pools? How is drainage from swimming pools addressed?
I'm not sure, but I know that's got to be something with the TCQ and the water quality. I think
Stormwater permit.
Yeah.
I believe the
So I'm-
Oh, Izzy mate. Look at Izzy stepping up.
Hey.
Please save us, Izzy.
He's like, I went to all of these continuing ed classes and I know things.
Well, I do know that city council, city mayor, thank you. Any chlorinated water that actually goes into a creek needs to be dechlorinized.
Okay, great.
We do know that. The only other way that you can actually dispose of that correctly is going into wastewater sewer system.
Okay. Clears it up for me at least.
It's just cut and dry.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, with that, you do have a motion and a second before you, council. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no.
Abstain.
Being 4 ayes, 1 abstention, the motion passes. Thank you, council. That will move on to agenda item number 10, discussion and possible action on a recommendation from the Park Commission on an alternative plan to the currently proposed retaining wall on the east side of the park near the field house. And I believe we have Melissa Morrow here.
Hello, Melissa Morrow, 2502 Timberline Drive, and also the Parks Commission Chair. We know that there is a RFP out there right now for the retaining wall. After that went out, Alex Robinette, who's online right now, came to us with a much more beautiful and well thought out plan that's more in keeping with our park and with the kind of look and feel and use better for the park. And so in your packet, you'll see there's some beautiful pictures of it. It makes a much more usable area for kids and adults, et cetera, moving from the back of the field house to the trail, basically, and right next to the playground. So we would like y'all to consider, instead of doing the retaining wall, we know that RFP is out till May, but we would like you all to consider scrapping the retaining wall and going after something more like this. And just so you know, we have already done a little homework on this, and we have a construction group that came out and told us that there would be something more in the ballpark of $25,000 to do this exact plan. So we actually have had 2 groups come out. One came out higher, and this one came out much lower, but it's a very well-respected group. So
Melissa, I missed that number. What was it again?
hold on. I think it's
That wasn't a setup. I really didn't.
Somewhere around 25,000.
hold on, because she just sent it to me again, so I have it. Alex is probably sitting there going, look. The number, the new number, oh, my glasses are not, 23,079.
Okay, thank you.
So it's significantly less. It does not then trigger that RFP requirement, but we would still probably get a couple of different groups to come out and bid it. That's it.
Okay. Thank you, Melissa.
I saw this and I was like, wow, that looks so cool.
Yeah.
That's what
It's
great.
very pretty. Yeah.
And I would
Yeah.
like
Mr.
to thank
Glit-
Alex for all of her hard work on that.
No kidding.
Mr. Glasheen raising his hand. You're recognized, Kevin.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I think it's a great plan, and I really appreciate Alex Robinette's efforts to, come forward and volunteer her creative abilities and professional expertise to really create something beautiful. And also want to just express my appreciation to the Parks Commission for, being open to changing the program and moving forward quickly with this to try to get something done. I think it's great. It's good work. Just want to thank everybody for it.
I would ditto those remarks.
As well.
I do have a question, though.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we being asked to approve the alternative approach, and this is the last time we'll see it, or are we being asked to recommend that the city administrator solicit bids and bring the bids back for a design along this fashion? I'm not quite sure how much of approval is being sought at this point.
I was just pondering that on this end of the dais as well. I think it's the latter. I think that we would try to kind of retool the RFP, and then do an official version of kind of what they've already done, and then bring it back to you for final.
And then bring it back.
Yeah, that would be my thought. Kevin, you're recognized, Mr. Glasheen.
Yeah, what I was going to say was just for clarity, when we talk about RFP, I don't think we need any more design services in it, but I think it would be a proposal for the construction is what we're looking for, is a bid and a proposal for the actual construction work, and just move straight into that, because I think the design work is done by what Alex Robinette's done.
Yeah.
And I hope, and of course I'd expect her to stay involved in essentially what we would refer to as construction administration, a term she's familiar with as an architect, but basically meaning to stay involved and engaged to make sure that the execution of the construction is consistent with the vision of the design.
Got it. That's good.
Alex has her hand up.
And now I'll recognize our pro bono architect, Alex Robinette.
Official.
Official.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. The bid estimate that we have from one firm is unlikely. It's, as I understand it, it's underneath the amount that would trigger an RFP. And I would also say that this sort of thing is hard to draw. It's really working with the contractor, who is essentially an artist, and they kind of look at the boulders available, they look at the landscape, and it's really kind of done in place. It's, no, we don't have detailed drawings, but this is often how these guys work. I think they have a pretty clear understanding of it. So I'll respect the process that you guys would like to go through. We did get a secondary bid that was extremely detailed and included a lot of things that we were not asking for. And to me, it was a little overkill in terms of what we're trying to do here, but I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. But from my perspective, yes, this is a heavy construction management process that I'd be happy to be there and watch and oversee. But what we have available right now would be enough to move forward. But that's from my perspective, not from the city perspective.
No, that's great input, Alex. I appreciate that. And like I said, I really wasn't passionate on this end on what we would do. I'll recognize Ms. Brown, and then Mr. Glasheen is up.
Is this one of the projects that RCDC had approved for funding? And do we need to run whatever bid we accept back through RCDC, or have they approved the funds, and what we need to do now is simply look at the bid and have it be brought back for official adoption?
They've approved the funds.
But they approved the funds for a retaining wall, right?
Yeah.
So do we need to?
My understanding.
You can still think of this as retaining the water that's coming down, but instead of doing one retaining wall, it'll be a series of blocks that breaks it down.
Right.
I tell you what, let's.
My
go ahead. Yes.
understanding is that they approved funds up to a certain amount for projects in the park. So
Okay.
Mr. Glasheen may have
Mr.
other.
Mr.
Yeah.
Mr. Glasheen, are you recognized?
Thank you. Yeah, so my recollection and understanding is that the RCDC approved a certain amount of money, and I forget the exact amount, but I'm pretty sure it was $30,000 for a retaining wall. And I couldn't hear Ms. Morrow very well because she wasn't at the microphone, but I think what she was saying was this is essentially is a retaining wall. It's just a slightly different design and style, more naturalistic, and which I agree with her on. And so I don't think, in my understanding from the approvals, I don't think we need to go back to RCDC. And I also think that we could now take the step of approving the project up to $30,000 with the preferred contractor that Alex Robinette has suggested. I know she's got some experience working with them, and it is kind of a collaborative process, as she said, executing the construction of the design and a collaborative real-time on-site kind of process. And I think if we went ahead and approved that up to $30,000 for her to work with that preferred contractor, as long as we don't trigger our, RFP process, if we could do that, I think that's what I'd like to see us do tonight so that she can go ahead and move forward with her contractor and start executing this project. Thanks.
And council, I think we're fine with that approach. So if you want to approve item number 10 as posted, and then if we run into a problem or we need to bring it back, we're happy to do that. But if you're comfortable with the look and I'm comfortable with the cost, so if we need to run it by RCDC, if we need to do something like that, we'll happily bring it back to you. But also fine for you to just approve item number 10 as presented and as presented in the packet.
So I move that we approve item number 10, the project as presented in the packet.
You have a motion.
Second.
You have a motion by Mr. McDuffie, a second by Mr. Glasheen. Further discussion, council.
No, just did you want to say up to the 30,000?
It's not necessary. I don't, but we
Okay.
could add it.
No,
if
no,
you
no,
wanna
that's fine.
add that
I was just
amendment.
like Kevin had mentioned that. So that's,
Yeah, and it's approved. You've got RCDC, I think, up to 50. So
That's my understanding
yeah.
of it.
Oh, that's a great point. So it was actually approved, Park Commission regarding funding of a capital improvement solution to address erosion due to drainage by the field house in the park with an approximate budget of 30,000. So you've got up to 30 and there's no specificity given as to what it's supposed to look like.
That was
So
the RCDC?
that was the RCDC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So you're good on that front.
Okay.
Okay.
Just wanted to make sure that we didn't run afoul of what they had.
Yeah,
Yes,
no,
what
that
they
was-
had
Exactly.
approved, so
Yeah.
that's generic enough.
It
that
should
this
fall
Just a
seems
process
fine.
question.
Yeah, it
Right.
should fall well within that, what they approved, so.
Right.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And
Was that oh wait, Kevin?
Kevin?
Kevin said aye.
Oh, okay. There being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council.
Thank you again, Alex, for
Yeah, thank you,
all your
Alex.
good work,
Very
and
much
the
so.
Park Commission for all their good work.
Yeah, thanks for everyone. Thanks for Melissa for being here.
Thank you to all of you.
Consider taking up 16.
Yes, I will consider taking up 16. Yes. Go ahead and pull up agenda item number 16. This is an update and discussion regarding future planning for modifications or improvements to the parking lot at the park. This is my agenda item that I've placed here for your consideration with some discussion with those who serve on our park commission. Melissa is here to talk to us a little bit about it. I think they want to get some input from council related to some parking improvements, and I think they've done some initial due diligence, but in And I think it's wise and a wise move to try to seek guidance before you spend a lot of time working on something. And I think we all know that that can go awry around here. So thank you. And why don't you tell us what you're thinking and what kind of guidance you all would like to see, and then we can ask council their thoughts on it.
That sounds great. So, yeah, that'd be great. She's going to pull up the attachment so you get an idea. So, about a year and a half ago, the Parks Commission got together and we sort of made a list of things that we thought we could all agree on and want to work on together. And we've worked through several of those, the retaining wall, trees. And as we got closer to tree placement, we suddenly realized that some of these trees were going to be right adjacent to the parking lot. And since parking lot is one of those big things that we've been wanting to work on, but really haven't tackled yet, Alex, very nicely, as we had her already roped in for the retaining wall, and she has such a great aesthetic that's really in tune with the park, we roped her into doing some drawings for us for here. So what you're seeing here is, and you can kind of see some of the tree, the green spots where we're thinking about putting the trees. What we would like is some guidance, because whether or not we do a project right now about parking, we don't want to put any trees where possible future parking changes might happen. And so this was an attempt at, okay, how can we make this parking lot safer, add a little bit extra? So I actually reached out to Western Hills Little League, their president emeritus, and Chad Smith, who's on the Parks Commission right now, is a past Western Hills Little League. Now, their board has not voted on this, but I just wanted to make sure that they also felt good about giving up a little bit of that fields 3, 4, and 5. And they said if that improved the safety and gave us better parking than in a more well-marked parking lot, they're all for it. And so that they would help us support that. We're in the very earliest stages, but the idea of it is really to be able to accommodate almost the same number of cars in what I call the east parking lot, by making it, right now, it's really, you can only park on one side of it and the other side is road. This would make it so that you could park on either side and be able to drive down the middle. This is for larger cars, Suburbans, et cetera. We did not make this for Priuses only. We are also, for those of you who haven't walked it lately, it is paved. It's just that it's so old that it's totally falling apart. So it's not as if it's pervious cover right now. And most of it has been compacted down for 50 years of use. One idea is to actually make the northern parking lot, where you see where it says 12 cars, one thought is to eliminate that parking. We're not there yet, because we still feel like when we have so many people in the park, we need additional parking. But one of the things that we're looking into is, if we call that sort of our overflow parking, could we make that more of a green space? There are some products nowadays that can make a parking area next to the Q2 stadium, and there's a couple of other places around town that have these, you basically put in a mesh or something that holds it so that you can park on it, but also you can either grow grass through it or you can have rocks in it, something that's very pervious. And part of that came out of trying to reduce the heat sink that happens around the fields. And so we could maybe make the south and the north parking lots into green parking lots, and then really only have the middle one be a more formal asphalt or cement parking lot. What we want to hear from you all is, yes, please explore some parking alternatives that formalizes our parking a little bit better there, or no way, not in the next 3 years do I even want this to come before us, don't even think twice about it. We've reached out a little bit to RCDC also, and they see this as being a real win-win, them being able to put money into the park, but also really improve an area for safety and aesthetics and for parking. So this is the part where does this make you sad? Does it make you happy? Are you like, please go out and get a little more information? And if you want, I did promise the mayor, I said I would do that description in 60 seconds, so I'm sure I've already overdone that.
You're
And then I
you're
said
doing great.
I would only take 3 more minutes to get feedback from you all. We don't need a lot, but it's sort of like a, yeah, keep researching it, or no way.
I would like to see you pursue and keep researching it further. It looks, you know, the general concept looks very helpful, and, you know, it's gonna need some detailed work. We all know that.
I would say, I think one question is, with the paved parking, or perhaps even with the green mat, I think you need to get someone to advise whether that will require TCEQ approval, because it's a change. And then also, I'd like to, the next time this comes around, I'd like to see, I'm interested that we keep the hiking trail, and I know you intend to do that, but it's that and moving the fence. I think this is going to end up being a fairly significant project money-wise, especially if we have to go get TCEQ approval. But I like it, and I like the concept very much. Those were just the 2 things. And one other thing, in the top picture, what's called the back parking lot, the corner on the right that's across from, that backs up to the dugout on one end and is across the trail from the wildflower garden. There's been thought of having a tree there, and I'd like for y'all to consider that. I'm not saying yes or no, but I think y'all can make whether a tree there would be nice, both to shade the dugout and provide shade on that part of the trail, because it can get hot.
She had, I think, about 3 to 5 trees up in that area.
Is that what the dots in the lower, in
Yes,
the second picture
yes,
are?
and
Okay.
I think what happened is when we redid this one, I think there's actually one. Is there one lower? Oh yeah, there you go. If you go on the thing, if you scroll up below this one, there you go.
Yeah, the
There were
dots.
some more- yeah, there's
Those
some
are
more.
trees.
Oh,
Okay.
You do see them. Yeah.
And
that's not necessarily the final. It's just that we wanted to at least show that we did want to stick trees in there.
okay. Well, and I'll say that in talking with the Zach Elkins with the swimming pool, I asked them, I said, if this gets approved, will y'all seriously look at some nicer way to screen off the back side of the swimming pool? So I would ask that you talk with them on that.
Yes.
And I think this plan will help ameliorate some of the, I'm expecting that people will be concerned as trees come off the property of the swimming pool, and if this plan can help ameliorate some of the concern about that as well. So, thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Sarah? I
Yeah.
talked to Alex about this the other day, and 2 things that have been brought up, or one that's been brought up, one that I've thought of. In the past, there was a comment made that you needed a place for cars to be able to turn around. And so we need to make sure that cars can get in there and park, and then they can actually get back out of there. And also, if somebody breaks a leg, does whatever, and you have to get an ambulance in there, that we would need to have the ability to access. I like the idea of that not being parking back there, but we would need the ability to access that with like an emergency response vehicle. And so having the mesh in there would be a good idea. It would also allow them to get in there and turn around to come back out if they needed to. And you could put a gate or something across there so that it would be limited when it's used. And the other thing from a baseball, softball standpoint is that the way it's set up right now, there's not really any good place for the kids to warm up before a game. And so having that, a safe place for them to warm up. So having that green space back there, that gives a place for the teams to gather before they take the field, for them to warm up, for the, you know, so that makes sense to me to have that back there also.
The green mat. Heard the.
Yeah, but the green space and not being parking back there.
Oh,
Something
okay,
like
I see.
that.
Yes.
But the green mat is a nice way to address the,
Yeah.
you know, the access for a vehicle.
Okay.
And, you know, maybe occasionally you need to park back there, and so that could happen too, so.
Alex, or Kevin, I'm sorry, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm enthusiastically in support of everything that you mentioned. I thought, you know, every detail I thought that you mentioned was good thinking. And so I'm also appreciative that the Park Commission is being so proactive, and again, appreciate Alex Robinette's contributions. And I think, you know, for this process to go forward as quickly and efficiently as possible, y'all are doing such good work. I just want to, you know, make sure that we don't slow you down, and I just want you to know that you've got my support and appreciation.
Great, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Alec, anything?
No, a lot. It's awesome.
Two
I
thou-
think that mesh stuff is cool. I wish you could just get rid of the asphalt and use that. I don't know how durable it is, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
it looks awesome.
Well, I don't think it was ever officially paved. I think that is the scrapings from the
Yeah.
roads the last time we did the big road project, and they put they spread that out there, and that is
That is what's up.
which has compacted over time, but it was not like an officially, you know, designed and paved area, so, yeah.
Nice, good.
Yeah.
And I see Alex Robinette with her hand up. Alex, you're recognized.
Thank you. Quick point to what Alex said. You can use that same mesh, which is basically like a high density plastic material, to hold different types of gravel and rock, and you can even have them colored. They can be kind of a nice earth tone or tan or something, not gray. And so you could use that for parking along that east side. Additionally, if you felt like you wanted to have a paved drive down the middle, you could do that and have the combination, or everything on the left is grass, everything on the right is gravel. Anyway, there's lots of options. I agree, they're worth exploring.
Great.
And that may change the answer for TCEQ as well.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things we had talked about was making sure you could see where the spaces were, so people didn't just do all this craziness. And in that mesh, they actually have these little colored things you can press down into them so that it actually marks. It's like
Oh,
little dots.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that,
Yeah.
how to mark the spaces.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you, council, for your input. I think you have your straw poll there.
Perfect.
It seemed like it went well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Great.
All right, well, with that, we'll move off agenda item number 16 and move on to agenda item number 11, discussion and possible action regarding increased enforcement of visibility requirements in rights of way, and recognize Ms. Hudson for her agenda item.
Right. So I don't know if everybody was aware, a little over a month ago, there was a near miss of actually a former council member's son and a SUV. The son was on a bicycle, and the SUV ran a stop sign, pulled out in front of him. He had to swerve and went down. The car didn't stop. I don't know if they never saw him, but ran the stop sign. We have, and I brought it up a couple months ago, and I talked to the police chief and Alan, city administrator, earlier last week, I guess, about trying to improve enforcement on our visibility. We've got so many kids out there. It's getting ready to be summertime. There are going to be more kids out there on their bicycles, their e-bikes, their whatever all they're out there riding around on. the kids are not always following traffic laws, whether they know what they are or not, I don't know, but, if you combine that with hampered visibility, we're just asking for a disaster, which I would like us to prevent. I don't want to be the one that hits somebody. I don't want anybody else to hit somebody. I don't want anybody to get hit. But we had another on the WhatsApp just last week that somebody said that there was a construction truck with a trailer that just ran a stop sign in front of them. So just, I asked the chief if the council needed to give a directive that this is important for us to have them up enforcement. From a code standpoint, you know, we have changed our code to require construction fences to be 10 feet back from the curb, that the signs that are posted, we have sign ordinance that has a limit on the size that is allowed, and they're supposed to be 10 feet back from the curb. We have some habitual violators on the sign ordinance. We have construction fences that are not 10 feet back from the curb. I just want to make sure that we are doing everything that we can. I asked about trying to educate the kids, and she's going, we're going to the schools, we're talking, you know, they're trying to do what they can to improve the understanding and the compliance of the kids with the traffic laws. But we also need more enforcement on parking, a lot of parking on the wrong side of the street that impedes visibility, and, you know, cars pulling out from odd places because they're pulling out across the street when, you know. Anyway, I just want to make sure that we're doing what we can to limit the opportunities for adverse events with kids and cars and bikes and everything else up there.
Absolutely, and that's an important issue, health and safety issue, and I think it's an all of the above approach. Chief and I have talked about it. Alan and I have talked about it. Izzy and I have talked about it. There are several different buckets here too. It's not we're trying to keep our corners and our rights of way clear. I know they've cleared a number of corners recently too. I'd ask council or anybody else too to just call in and let us know, let Alan know. Izzy and his team can get out and help clear some of those spaces. The vegetation piece of it, yeah.
Right.
And oftentimes that's some of the worst. And those creep up on you because over time they grow up and out, and you don't really notice it if you're not being vigilant about trimming all that back. So we'll do that. I know Nikki will give extra attention to the construction piece of that equation too. So.
And if there's anything that we need to do from a code standpoint, because I know several years ago we changed the requirements for fences, so that this fences along the side yards have to stop 15 feet from the street, so you can't take a fence all the way to the curb, because especially, you know, next to driveways, that blocks visibility to see if cars are coming, you know, so the fence had to be 15 feet from the street. But we don't have the same restriction on hedges, and that can block to the same extent. I meant to look at the code to see if it covers that. I don't think it covers vegetation. And so if we need to do something in the code to, you know, we've got the 15 feet from a corner requirement for vegetation over 3 feet high, that's not allowed. But if we need to do something more in the code so that backing out of a driveway doesn't, you know, people can see that coming before they, you know, people in the driveway can see when they're backing out, and the people on the street can see when somebody is backing out. If we need to change that in the code as well, then we may need to take that up too. So.
Good deal.
That was
No, thank you for those comments and for bringing it to council's attention, our attention as well. Any actions or motions to be made?
I think, like I said, I talked to the chief, and I think she's aware of that, and we just need to, if anybody sees anything that you know, from a building standpoint, from a vegetation standpoint, as you're going around there, that I just want to make sure that if there's something that council needs to do to make sure that we improve the visibility and the enforcement, that we are aware of it and we get that taken care of, so.
Sure. Currently, we do get, calls from, residents or anything that we notice out there that could be a conflict. We do have good rapport with the chief, and we talk about it. And of course, my position, I generally don't go out there and talk to the residents. We do at times, but when it becomes a nuisance or time for enforcement, that's when we reach out to our code enforcement officer.
Okay.
Thanks, Izzy.
You're
All
welcome.
right.
Okay.
That was it.
All right, good deal. With that, we'll move off agenda item number 11, move on to 12. Discussion and possible action on a resolution approving and adopting a residential lighting manual. Have Nikki lay this out for you. This is pretty straightforward, just kind of dotting our I's, crossing our T's on previous action. Is that correct?
Yeah, so last month we did adopt the new residential lighting standards, and with that adoption comes our lighting manual. So by resolution, we need to adopt that so that way we can use that and use that for reference with our approved code.
Okay. Thank you, Nikki. Any questions for Nikki? Happy to take them.
Thank you for bringing this back.
Yes, and remembering to do so.
Yes.
If I have you take a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that we approve the Resolution 2025-04-1912, establishing a residential lighting manual.
You have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown. Was that you?
Second,
Okay,
yes.
a second by Mr. McDuffie. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. There being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. Moving on to agenda item number 13, discussion and possible action on amendments to chapter 107 of the City of Rolling Woods Code of Ordinances, section 107-369 to section 107-379 to residential landscape and tree canopy management. If you'll recall last meeting, council, we sort of did a line-by-line discussion of this agenda item and this ordinance and made very specific wording changes to all of that, and I believe that what is before you this evening is reflective of all of those specific changes that we made and put into the record at the last meeting. And with that, I will recognize Ms. Brown and or Nikki, however you all would like to do that, as it is Ms. Brown's agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And if Nikki has, if you have comments on this?
I believe the information that was provided by the original agenda item for the ordinance is then, we've got a few edits by you. I did have one question.
Okay.
Regarding, yeah, the grammaticals, which is perfect. It was the portion regarding the replacements. I'm sorry. Yes, so it would be page 10, starting at line 373.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's talking about addressing emergency removals with that and the pruning and the cutting. I don't know if removing this entire section is appropriate because it is talking about, reducing and waiving the replacement tree for the protected tree. The reason this has caught my eye is because I know a lot of people have been trying to remove trees that have died. And this is the only portion in the code where you can reduce or waive replacement trees. Of course, a lot of people really don't have the documentation for it to do it. Additionally, there was questions last time regarding, I think Ms. Hudson, you had brought it up regarding if it has to be a certified arborist or the same certified arborist. So we do have language there for both, which you could choose. But there was a lot going on with that subsection.
Okay, I think when I proposed this edit, the first, if you look at 373B, and this applies when there's not a building permit being sought. This applies if I want to remove a tree in my yard, or if I find the tree's dead. 373B has a provision, 37B1, upon report of a certified arborist hired by the property owner that a heritage tree is either dead, dying, etc., then this is, you can send a report to the city arborist, and the administrator shall have the authority to determine whether such documentation is in compliance with the subsection and may consider specific safety situations. So this is this is the process that applies when a person wants to remove a tree and there's not a building permit in place or being considered. When we get to 375, this is conditions for approval, but it's not necessarily, it seems to me the better course is to have the conditions for removal of trees on a property where there's no building permit in place in one section, 373, and the conditions for removal when there is a building permit under consideration, and that is 375.
Okay.
And so what I was seeing was in 375, we have put in a provision that deals with both. And that caused confusion. And it, that's why I was recommending that we reduce that, move what belongs in 373 into 373, and address what needs to be in 375 and 375. So I found it in 375E, it says, if the building official determines under 373B3 that an emergency existed, the city arborist may reduce the replacement tree requirement to the one replacement tree under either 107371D or 107371D2. So that seems to cover being able to waive a requirement for a replacement tree when there's something diseased, dead, or dying. So I don't think we need that in F.
Okay.
We don't need to restate that in F. And then under 373B, that deals with, 373B deals with removing when there's not a permit in place and you're dealing with a heritage tree. So that's the conflict I was seeing in recommending that we delete F.
Okay.
Now, if we've left a gap, then we need to address that. But it seemed to me that we had covered everything else. It seemed to me there wasn't a gap.
Yes, now that I do see that it's the removal of the heritage tree portion, makes
Yes.
a lot more sense, yes.
Okay. That was what got me where I was on that.
Okay,
Sorry, I was a little inarticulate. on
it's
that.
okay, I was following you.
Okay.
So do we have coverage for removal of a tree that's without a building permit that's not a heritage tree?
Yes,
That's dead, dying, or whatever?
yes. And that is the,
You know, I thought that was the portion,
Because 373B specifically
Talks
addresses
about the
heritage trees.
the heritage, yes. And I wanna
Does
say,
that just need to say protected tree instead of heritage tree?
I think there, let me work through this.
I think
Because
upon,
the first part of B says a person may perform emergency pruning or removal of a protected tree. It says protected tree as follows, and then one says a heritage, I mean, it specifies a heritage tree. So it sounds like maybe that should just say protected tree instead of heritage tree there.
yeah, our current code just reads talking about the removal of a protected tree, so I think that did kind of get pushed out. With pushing the heritage tree in, but I do see that this portion with the heritage tree requires the Board of Adjustment. However, we don't have just the removal for emergency or removal compliance with, for just the protected tree. I mean, the whole section is removal of protected trees, but
Well, I think it's a combination of
I think it's just a
E
combination.
of E, 375E, which is that if an emergency existed when the tree was removed, plus 373B,
B. Well, the emergency is held with 375, and then just the removal of protected trees is laid out in 373, with the specifics of the removal of the heritage tree and the additional requirements. I do believe we're covered.
yes. I think we're covered.
I think so too.
And it seemed to me that the requirement for removing a dead, diseased, or dying tree to have certified 2 prior actions performed within 3 years. Seem to be a lot of retention of records that you might or might not have, because you probably have, when you're having your trees trimmed, the arborist says this tree may die, and you go, okay, let's fertilize it or whatever they require, but you may not have documentation of that. I wanted to remove the requirement that you have 2 years of documentation on that, so. Otherwise, I think that is I don't know if anyone has other questions. The other changes are grammatical or clarifying in nature. I did the change on page 8 to 107374 to add a statement of what needs to be in an application for removal of trees where there's no permit in place. Seemed to me to be something that we needed. It doesn't require it's not as formal an application as the one for a permit. It's just a survey of the lot with the required yards, so that you know whether the tree's in a required yard or not, and you know whether it's a heritage tree or not. And the rest are, one other substantive provision is on page 13. This, where that addresses the, I think the changes in this section came from Charlie's office, eliminating redundant provisions that are otherwise covered, except that I do think we need a provision that I've added back language that if you engage in a prohibited act, or you hire, engage, or permit someone else to engage in a prohibited act, that's a violation. So, happy to explain anything else.
Yeah, thanks. I have a question. I agree with you on I think it was page 9 or line 360, that the language that was there before is a little problematic and doesn't really make sense, because
yes,
if it was 100%, then it means it's removed from the yard. But I just seeing this note made me kind of like pay attention to what was really being said there more carefully, and I kind of just don't agree with it. Like, seems to me that if it's more in the buildable area, then it should be part of the buildable area, or if the tree's more in the yard, then it should be included in the yard. Like, that's my suggestion would be we change that to, like, if it's 50% or more in diameter. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that's just me, because I think that it just seems like more fair to be like, where did the line and which side did it show up on, and which side is it more? That's just me. I know that probably won't get anyone to agree with that here, but I'm gonna say that's what I think is fair. But anyway, that's my point. But I do think that the other way it was written, it was like kind of interesting, because that was like that was actually, if you think about it, that's a way to get out of like everything. If it's 100%, it's removed from the yard. The way it was written before. So maybe that was like a loophole to get around all this. I didn't notice that before, but Brooke caught it.
Well, this was this was from my point of view, this was the compromise area where we could save maybe 1 or 2 more heritage trees, because we're going with the buildable area instead of the building footprint. And so this is a way to, save maybe
design
one.
around the
Yeah,
tree.
but the
Yeah.
buildable area, I'm just saying, like, the buildable area is not necessarily going to be the building footprint. I get that, but I think a lot of people would probably try and use the buildable area. I mean, it's just what happens. It's not all the times, but
Yeah,
trying
Anyway,
to
I
encourage them to save the heritage trees.
I don't know. I didn't get that. I was just stating
know,
my
if-
opinion or feeling on it.
Yeah. That was my compromise from the other direction.
All right.
So-
Happy to take a motion.
Okay, I will move approval. Do we have an ordinance number for this?
Yes.
If I may though,
You may.
so in line 373, which is 375F section, that is the portion where I will need y'all to either say that a certified arborist has documented at least 2 prior actions, or the same certified arborist has documented at least 2 prior actions.
Unless we just eliminate it, which is what.
Just eliminate the whole thing.
Brooke was
Okay,
recommending,
okay, all right, perfect.
because I agree, that's hard, you know.
Yeah, hard to document.
You may not
So-
have 3 years to treat a tree, you know,
Mhm.
it may die faster than that, so.
Okay, wonderful, thank you so much.
So if you just note that in the motion, that would be great.
Okay. I would recommend that I would move for adoption of the do we have an ordinance number for this? I know we
doesn't
have
look
the
like it's in-
XXXX is on in the
It's gonna
It's not in
be,
the packet, baby. 2025-04-16-13.
once again, please.
Sorry, 2025-04-16-13.
Okay. I would move adoption of ordinance number 2025-04-16-13, using the, and incorporating the edits that are shown in the packet under BBB edits to tree ordinance.
Second.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown, a second by Ms. Hudson. Is there further discussion, council? Hearing none, all those, Mr. Glasheen, are you just getting ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay, great. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Being 5 ayes, no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. Moving on to agenda item number 14
All right.
is discussion and possible action regarding new proposed code section for protection of utility easements, and this is Ms. Brown's agenda item.
Yes. Members of the council, I drafted this when we were, the issue that came up when we were addressing whether or not we to amend the code to prohibit underground water detention facilities in setbacks. It came to my attention that we don't have a provision of the code that protects structures or other uses of public utility easements. And so this draft, this proposed code provision would protect public utility easements with respect to any permanent structure above or below ground. And so it would give protection to public utility easements, which will then in turn protect our water facilities where water facilities are within a public utility easement. And it also includes a provision that requires, when there's no building permit at issue, that trees planted within a public utility easement are held to the same standard as trees planted in a public utility easement when there is a building permit in process. So that's the intention here. The new language you'll see in the ordinance, the draft ordinance, the only new language is the language that's in the new section R. The language that's underlined in subsection S is existing language that's been moved. It has a double underline just because it's being moved. It's in the code already, but it's being moved from what was R to new subsection S. So that's the intention. The trees, for the tree provisions, it's the same tree provisions that are in the building, the zoning code for trees within a public utility easement. Then the third thing it does is for trees, and this is not in our building code, but it's something I think we should think about. This is lines 48 to 50, 47 to 50. If you plant a tree within a water or sewer line, there must be root barriers installed within so many feet of a water line or sewer line. I came across that in other city codes when I was looking at how they protect their public utility easements. And so that would prevent with our new water line systems, that would prevent some intrusion 10 to 15 years from now from trees that are being installed. And probably won't be uncommon to a landscaper in this area because it's in the Austin Code. So there you have it.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
I would move approval of ordinance number 2025-03-19-14.
Second.
You have a motion by Ms. Brown, you have a second by Ms. Hudson. Hold on. Did you have something?
Yes. The current draft ordinance is actually the one from last one, so I can give you the actual number, the ordinance number for this month. Sorry.
We've kept moving, so yeah, go ahead.
So this ordinance that you are referring to would be 2025-04-16-14. And this change has already been made to the meeting packet online, so it's now accurate.
Okay, thank you.
Is that, you accept that amendment, or
Yes,
you want
I
to
do.
make that amendment so the corrected ordinance number would be 2025-04-16-14. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other, so you have a motion, you have a second, further discussion, council? Alan?
Yeah, I just don't think I can get on board with the requirement that we tell people what kind of trees they can plant if it's within 20 feet of a utility easement. I mean, if it's in the utility easement, I get it. But if it's in their own property and it's not in the easement, it doesn't seem to me like, why do I care if they plant something from the protected tree? That's just my opinion. So that's why. I'm reading this from, by the way, because all the legal language kind of like, I'm just reading the summary sheet because it does a good job of like dumbing it down for me. But I don't know if that's the way it's written in the code or the ordinance draft or not.
That's the way it's City of Austin, Austin Energy has that requirement in there so that you don't grow trees up into the power lines.
I'm just saying that it says that it's, this what I'm saying is that, let's say that a tree planted within 20 feet of an above ground power. I can see that, right? 20 feet, because I have one behind me, I can see that, and I can see our neighbor behind us. Like 20 feet goes a long way, and I just don't understand why that would, why it matters, what they plant there. I don't.
Because of the branches that grow from the trunk.
Well, you can plant. Okay, is an oak tree a protected tree?
Yes.
Okay, so they plant an oak tree, and I can tell you those oak trees jam up into the lines all the time. So they can plant something that jams up into the lines.
Under this, you would not be able to plant an oak tree. You would not be able to install a new oak tree. Now, we have oak trees in utility lines because the oak trees were there before the utility line.
Right.
And those are the ones that get trimmed. But if you're planting a new tree, in this case,
It says that it has to be, the tree has to be from what, like one of our protected trees, right? That's what it says?
no,
Oh.
this does not address it says that the tree species, you're not planting a protected tree, you're planting from a list of trees that will not get taller than 20 feet.
There's separate lists of trees that are,
Oh, it's
Are-
not a protected tree.
No, it's
It's
not
a-
a protected tree, it's a designated species, it's a designated short tree,
I got you.
right.
shorter tree,
Right.
yeah.
Mr. Glasheen, you've got your hand up. You're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm not really comfortable passing this right now. I know I like the intention behind it. I think there's some good ideas there, but I know this came out of a concern about the underground facilities that were being installed, perhaps maybe at a neighbor's, well, that was in the setbacks. But I understand the idea of protecting the utility easements, but I'm a little concerned that we're, like, first of all, solving a problem that isn't necessarily a problem for us yet. I don't know where we've had a real problem with, residential uses interfering with utility easements. And I will say that as a property owner, as a lawyer, a developer, I really like to see, I've got a lot of property that's got a lot of easements on it, not just my home in Rollingwood. And I don't like the idea that easements restrict the use of my property any more than they reasonably need to. And I just don't want to, also, I don't feel like, this ordinance hadn't gone through any committees, for community input. And I know, our CRCRC group led by Dave Bench, of course, this didn't go to them, and I'm not suggesting it should, but Dave expressed some opinions about this ordinance and was concerned about it and thought we shouldn't rush it. And I'd really, even though I value his opinion separate and apart from his position as like the chair of CRCRC, just as a resident, I know he's an interest in the subject. I'd really like to see some more discussion of the ordinance and some more thought about it. And also some, I appreciate the representation that it's similar to Austin, and that gives me some comfort that it's similar to what other cities have done, but still, I'm just not comfortable yet. I'm not saying that I'm always going to be against this, but right now I just think it's still a little too quick and early. We've accomplished a lot recently with our residential code to protect trees and improve, protect setbacks as well. And, we're on the cusp of the building height changes. And I don't want to just I just feel like we're just throwing this one in there and, it's being a little rushed and I'd like to just slow it down and keep carrying it forward until we get a little more community understanding and consensus on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other comments from I'm getting to public comment here in a second. Any other questions from council?
I would say I don't have a problem with holding off on this. We've held off on it it's been posted 2 different council meetings, but we haven't discussed it. And so I don't have a problem holding off another council meeting or so. I was kind of surprised that I haven't gotten any comments on it. So if there's concern in the community that hasn't reached us yet, I'm happy to hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
Thank you.
There has been concern in the community that we have allowed this.
Yes.
And that was the problem. And Kevin, contrary to what you say, we have had problems with this. So I don't think that you can say that this hasn't been an issue because we had somebody excavate and expose our water line in multiple places because they were building within this.
Well, I think
Do what?
I was going to say, I think we probably all agree with the one part, or at least I do.
The first sentence?
Yeah, the first part of it. Well,
Yeah.
I meant like permanent structures and things like that. I mean, I get that. I'm just was like kind of more on the tree side, which I already said my piece or point about that.
Okay.
So anyway, don't need to speak on that anymore.
Okay.
And I guess when I say it hadn't been a problem, I should have said, to be more clear, it's not a problem so far as I've known. And so that's part of the process of, carrying this ordinance forward, is to educate us even. I appreciate knowing more about it. But, as far as somebody excavating in the utility easement, I mean, that's stupid and shouldn't happen without, a dig test or, location service anyway. And I mean, there clearly had to have been more than one mistake happened. And I'm not sure that, this ordinance would have stopped somebody from failing to call for a utility location. So, I mean, it's going to happen. But anyway, I think that the concept is a good idea, that the intention is appropriate to protect the easements to the degree. I just want to, and I apologize for not even being there right now because I'm in trial in a case where I'm representing some folks in Santa Fe. We're in the middle of a jury trial.
Can't understand you, Kevin.
We're having difficulty.
I'm sorry. I was just saying, I'm sorry I'm not there. I'm just out in Santa Fe in the middle of a jury trial as a lawyer. But anyway, I appreciate your willingness to, slow it down and get some more input. But I think it's a good concept, and I'm in favor of the intention. I'd just like to develop it a little more.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. All right, I'll move to public comment. If anyone wishes to make public comment on agenda item number 14.
Thank you. Dave Bench, 1 Randolph. Mayor, City Council, I appreciate this well-intentioned effort here, but I am concerned, and I wish to express that concern about the portion of this proposal that has to do with where certain types of trees are allowed to be planted. I'm not opposed to regulating buildings or the like, or any structures in inappropriate areas, especially when neighbors are impacted by those things. But in my view, what is being proposed here crosses the line and creates restrictions that are not needed. This proposal borrows from section 107.371C1, listing tree species allowed within 20 feet of the overhead utility, and in so doing, makes the proposal seem like it's an extension of a well-considered and sensible ordinance, that is our tree ordinance. But the intention of this proposal and the intention of the tree ordinance are very different. The tree ordinance generally focuses on developers and intends to discourage the unnecessary removal of protected trees, and when deemed necessary, ensures that the removed tree is replaced appropriately. That's what the tree ordinance does. Removal under the tree ordinance requires a permit, which is often obtained in conjunction with the building permit. The permitting process ensures that the promise of the replacement is kept. Inspections are made. The proposal before you seeks to limit what kind of trees a homeowner, not developer, a homeowner can plant, and also where they can be planted. And I understand the argument that trees randomly planted could eventually find themselves in the way of utility lines. But the issue can be taken up and taken care of then, if that happens. A prudent homeowner won't let that happen. And moreover, the unaware homeowner, if this ordinance passes, stands a chance of breaking the law without even knowing it. The innocent person who goes out in their backyard, decides they're going to put an oak tree there without knowing that this ordinance is in place, is in fact breaking the law. Moreover, the proposal would be difficult, if not impossible, to enforce. So, I think we should be promoting homeowner tree planting, not regulating it. And I would support the inclusion of this portion of the proposal in a best practices document, along with other prudent advice on tree planting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the comments.
God, you say things a lot better than I do. But that was my opinion completely, or my feeling completely.
All right, great. Yes, ma'am. Step up.
Shanti Jaykumar, 3309 Park Hills Drive. One other aspect that y'all may not have thought about is the fire protection. Recently, there were some brochures that I've seen where the fire department has specifically said where and when not to have vegetation near your building. And that's something that has been of concern to neighboring communities because of the fire hazard. So I would urge y'all to maybe have the fire chief come and make a presentation, because I can tell you that a lot of people in the community are very concerned about, there have been fires not too far from here, and something to consider about where trees can or should not be planted, or where vegetation should be removed for the protection of your building. I'm not an expert on this. I've been just reading up on it. And since you brought up the tree issue and utility lines, the existing trees have gone up there, and we need to trim them off of the power lines or whatever. But going forward, might be a good idea to have the fire chief come at one of our meetings and assure the people in this community that we are taking care to protect our fires. Just thought.
Thank you, Shanti.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Okay, council, agenda item 14 is back for you. Do you wish to take action on it? Do you want to table it to a time certain? Do you want to, what would you like to do?
I would recommend we not take action this evening and bring it back at the next city council meeting.
So, as an alternate, we could delete the section, the lines that cover the trees,
Line 43 to line 47.
and pass the rest of it, so that we have coverage from underground structures in the utility easements. And then we can tweak the language related to trees if we want to add that in at a later time, but then we at least have protection of our utility easements from structures addressed without putting that off.
I will second the amendment if I can. Or friendly amendment is accepted.
I'm happy to, I tell you what, let's go then to the, if that's what your intent is for this motion, then let's go to the ordinance, and be very specific on the line numbers that you would be striking.
We would be striking lines 43 beginning with 2 through line 47 ending with utility parent period. You would, Ms. Hudson, you would keep the language relating to root barriers if you're planting within 10 feet of an underground water or sewer line? Or would you strike that?
I am fine with all of this. I'm just thinking to get the structures part addressed, that I would like to get covered. I think
Okay.
on the root barriers,
That may go with the manual as
the
well.
training or the education, whatever, for homeowners on what they need to do for,
Yeah, I can see that.
then we might need to get some more clarity on that and a way to address how we need to handle the tree planting. But I would really like to make sure we don't have any more huge excavations next to our water lines
Okay.
for underground structures.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would recommend that we adopt my motion, I would move that we adopt ordinance number 2025-03-19-14.
It would, 04-16-14, but, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's the new,
okay, sorry.
that's okay?
But strike the proposed language from line 43 through line 50.
43, starting at the word to through line 50.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, that is the motion, and it is seconded by Ms. Hudson. And we have a question by Mr. Glasheen.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure to invite Mr. Dave Bench to comment on that change as to how that would affect his position on this.
Thank you, Mr. Glasheen. I think that's exactly what I would like to see happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bench. Thank you, Mr. Glasheen. Okay, so you have the amended motion or the amended ordinance now before you in the form of a motion and a second. Is there further discussion, council? And there may very well be. I'm not rushing you on that. Okay. Hearing no further discussion, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Being 5 ayes and no nays, motion carries. Thank you, council. And this may be a record, council. I don't know if Alan's just good luck or what, but I'm happy to take a motion to adjourn.
Move adjournment.
You have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Being 5 ayes, no nays. We're not letting Kevin weigh in on it.
I'm not opposed.
You are adjourned.